Standing rainwater, flooding. It's a problem all over the world, from golf courses to airports to playing fields to a backyard. And it's a problem that can lead to other problems like mosquitoes, bacteria, and parasites. Traditional solutions include regrading, aeration, trenches, and drainage systems with varying levels of long-term success. But thanks to this Hazel Park, Michigan company and their relatively simple but innovative invention, the problem has a permanent solution wherever the device is installed.
So Excelterra stands for Excellence for Earth, which is our vision, our mission. And Andrew, as a founder of the company, is a CTO. And what we do, we develop highly sustainable and disruptive technologies to help cope with major imbalances that have been created on this planet by human activity. We can address major problems such as stormwater management. We have a way to actually help the ground absorb water again. Instead of doing piping system like it has been done for so many years, we can actually help the ground infiltrate water again. We install certain profiles into the ground that are called JEPS, which stands for Groundwater Energy Passive System. And those profiles will distribute the moisture on the ground very evenly, basically equalizing the moisture in the ground. Once this is done, you have many benefits. You have benefits in terms of infiltration. The ground can infiltrate again, like what the forests were doing before we cut them. More importantly, it will maintain the moisture into the ground, which is very healthy, which is helping also places like sports fields, golf courses, etc., to reduce irrigation, for example. It's a very simple technology. That's the key, simplicity. As you can see, this is not a tube. Okay, this is a very precise extrusion, okay, a very precise profile that has a cap on top. And what those units do individually and then as a system, because we're going to put many of them under the ground, they will work together as a system. They will become a system and then disperse the water laterally. Because as you can see in that profile, there's no it's not a tubular shape. The shape is tubular, but it's not a tube. It's not a conduit for water. Water never flows through those units. Those units are just here to basically use the natural horizontal layers of the ground to laterally disperse the water. And that's where you have your distribution, your moisture distribution. And basically, those units will then, once installed into the ground, constantly do this job of bringing moisture from high level concentration to lower level of concentration. So any installation of JEPS comes with a layout. So it's a design by our engineer that will calculate based on the amount of water or what the problem is. So there's a characterization of the problem, and then based on those calculations, amount of water, they will design how many of those units will have to be implemented in the ground. So there's not one fit for all, except a football field can be standard, a baseball diamond can be standard. But for a residential customer, for a large installation, it's always designed depending on the customer. The advantage of this system, it is universal. It works in soil A, B, C, and D, so we don't need to do any soil boring prior to any installation.
So before we called Excelterra, we had a number of places in town that we had standing water issues, one of which is behind me in Memorial Park, and we would call it Lake Memorial after large rainfalls or springtime thaws. It's a natural bowl, and the water would just collect, and probably 20 feet on either side of the pathway, it'd be 3 or 4 or 5 inches deep. Our main park pathway system was underwater for days at a time. Similarly, we had a soccer field, and it was the outfield for our baseball diamond in our main park on the east side of the city. In the springtime, that would have even worse of a problem with runoff. It'd be inches of water just from the snow melt that wouldn't dissipate for weeks. In the summertime, that was very buggy and mosquito-y because whenever it rained, it would retain water, and it was a constant problem over there. So we installed the JEPS system here in the summer of 2022. And the next large rainfall we had, there was nothing. And the next spring thaw in the spring of 2023, there's nothing. So it was an almost immediate improvement. So yesterday we had a large all-day rainfall that in the past would have created a standing water problem at this location. And today you can see there's nothing there. We decided to use them when we did some tree plantings because of the way that moves nutrients through the ground and helps trees thrive where they otherwise might struggle. And one of the issues we've run into here is transplanting oak trees. So we're doing some oak tree plantings in unirrigated areas, and we used their system around the trees and saw some success with how those trees transplanted compared to other ones we'd done in the past.
I actually met Andrew, I had the opportunity to meet Andrew at the Port of Detroit. It was an event there, and there were some things that were said positively about the airport, about myself, and Andrew was like, I need to meet that guy. And so he caught me at the snack bar, I guess, in the backside of where we were having this event, and just introduced himself, and he said to me, he said, hey, do you have drainage problems? And I said, well, every airport has drainage problems, of course. So the problems that we had with drainage on the airfield is we were working on it's a communications area we have on the backside of the airport, and all of our, well, a great deal of our systems of communications go through that area. And what was happening is that it was being inundated with water, and it was never flooded the facility, but definitely got close, so it was kind of alarming. And he said, I think I can help you. And I said, you think or you know? And he said, I know I can help you. And I said, Andrew, all right, well, let's go ahead and talk about this. And then next thing you know, he came out to the airport. Within 30 days of that first meeting, we were able to have his system installed, and he solved a significant problem regarding our communications issues. We were one of the first sites that that this system was ever put in outside of where he put it in his home. So really we use it as a test site. We were testing a different type of technology because to put drainage tile in that area would have been an astronomical project. And this was able to, well, first it saved us money, right? If it worked, I figured what harm would it be if it didn't work, but it did work, and it saved us some money, and obviously solved some flooding that was a potential issue inside of our communications area.
Exelterra has also developed another technology called NEPS, which stands for Nutrient Enrichment Passive System, and is dedicated to the health of trees. Similar to the JEPS system, NEPS is installed and buried vertically into the ground around a targeted tree. Once it's installed, it works continually without ever needing maintenance.
Basically, also, it's an extrusion that is inserted into the ground around the tree. Now a completely different shape, but it's also a vertical insertion in the ground. They will bring nutrients to the roots, and they will favor the bacterial life around roots. So that's a total different product that will not infiltrate water at all. It will work only from the bottom up, bringing nutrients to the roots and helping the health of trees. NEPS doesn't need anything else than just the extrusion. And this is the key. We know how we can move things within the ground by using the natural forces from the ground. So in the case of NEPS, we're not moving moisture or water, not at all. We're bringing up nutrients that have been accumulated for millions of years that are just at a level where the roots cannot attain them. So we are bringing them up by a gaseous exchange, a vapor exchange. We're bringing them up to the root system. So at the end of the day, one of the advantages is that you can eliminate the need for fertilizer for trees.
In addition to the JEPS system, which permanently eliminates the problem of standing water, and the NEPS system, which allows trees to access nutrients in the ground that were previously inaccessible, Exelterra has developed a third technology called NSPS, or Nuclear Separation Passive System.
One major issue on this planet, which is a result of industrialization, is pollution. And so far, nothing exists to actually really address the pollution, which is accelerating the decay. Mother Nature cannot cope with the amount of pollution we have right now. What NSPS does, it is also installed into the ground. What NSPS does, it actually, as a system, become an accelerator of the natural decay of whatever pollution it is. It will start to separate, unbond what we bonded together within our industrial production or whatever it is, from PFAS to heavy metals.
To demonstrate how effective the NSPS technology is, Excelterra went to the site of what may be the most egregious and nightmarish example of industrial pollution anywhere. So contaminated is the site that Excelterra sought and received special permission to gain access, the only company in the world to do so.
What we did, we have installed, and we choose that for a reason, NSPS in the exclusion zone of Chernobyl. Around the nuclear power plant that melted down, there's a zone that is enormous that is considered and is called the exclusion zone. There's a 10-kilometer zone and a 30-kilometer zone. This is a zone that is controlled by the Ukrainian military that is very restricted because it is highly radioactive. So we had a very long negotiating process with the government of Ukraine, and we were able to finally have an agreement to install NSPS on an area of 2.5 acres. And the reason we did that in Chernobyl is because, first of all, they have a very strong measurement baseline. They measure this area since 36 years. They know exactly the amount of radioactivity. So we had a very good baseline. And then once we have installed, we will be able to every year collect data and see the improvement thanks to NSPS. 10 months it was accomplished. It was not easy because we had the COVID issue, and then we had forest fires, which is adding some more radioactivity because, again, it's creating another cloud. So within that period, we were still able to finish that whole job, which is a very precise job over 2.5 acres. You have to imagine 4,849 units of those installed within a tolerance of a few inches. So a very specific work. 6 different lengths. 6 different depths. So it's a very specific engineered layout. And the authorities were first worried about the fact that we're going to install those extrusion within the ground, because they naturally were thinking we're going to bring radioactivity somewhere else, basically bring it down into the ground, which obviously we would never do. That would be a catastrophe. If you move the radioactivity to the ground, then you're going to get it in the water, and Kiev is going to be contaminated. So we were able to demonstrate that what we're doing is not at all like the same thing with the other technologies. We're not bringing the problem somewhere else. We're addressing the problem. And in that case with NSPS, which is not this, but it's a different shape, but because it's patent pending, I'm not going to show you, NSPS is addressing the problem, which is accelerating the decay. And after 1 year on site in Chernobyl, we collected the same data from the baseline, and we have on average more than 35% reduction of radioactivity on the isotope that we're measuring.
Installation was 2019. We had to go to the site to not, just to instruct them how to do it. Installation was completed in 2021. So we had to go back to the site and to finalize the installation according to our layout.
Like the JEPS and NEPS systems, once the NSPS extrusions were in place, they have worked continually, 24/7, without ever needing maintenance. That's important not only for achieving their objective at Chernobyl, but also because the ongoing war in Ukraine has prevented Excelterra from returning to the site.
What is also important is that once the site is clean, you can actually remove those units because they have no more purpose, except if you want to use it as a preventive technology. Let's say you're building a new nuclear power plant, or you have one existing, and you're worried something is going to happen. you can preventively put them in the ground that says, in case there's another cloud, it's going to be absorbed directly. We are the first and only company that has done such a massive installation in the last 36 years. Nobody has been given that amount of land to do something. And we were very proud of that achievement. It took us 3 years of negotiation because obviously we're coming with something that seems so simple, it almost seemed first too good to be true. But luckily for us, we were able to discuss with people that had really nothing to lose. They are really wanted to find a solution because this land should be usable, could be usable. This land was used in the past. They want to get this land back. So that was our context. The results we get after 1 year were exactly on track with our project. So we knew that's what's going to happen. Remember, when we announce a product, it is fully engineered. We're not doing this as a test. We do know what's going to happen. This is why, actually, before we even announced any result, we already announced officially that we will reduce, or bring back radioactivity to a natural level within 5 years. Because we know exactly the mechanism that happened in the ground. We understand 100% our technologies. So we can predict exactly what's going to happen. Because now the system is in place and doing what it does, we could bring in physical material, radioactive material, and spread it on the ground and show that it will also deactivate that. So this can become a sort of a deactivation zone. This can be used in the future to deactivate radioactive material. That's the next step. And of course, the discussion we had just before the conflict was that we can actually address the massive problem they have there is the power plant number 4, which has exploded. Yeah. So the reactor who has exploded, that area is highly, highly, of course, contaminated. But there's 3 other reactors. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're all next to each other. We can, and we have already prepared the design, we can install NSPS around those 4 reactors and then create the same effect. That will take longer because we have high level of concentration. There's a location where they call it the elephant foot, where the radiation is extremely high. That's a massive project that will necessitate many machines, that's why we're building them now, because we're getting ready for that. That's going to necessitate a lot.
Speaking of machinery, not only has Excelterra designed the extrusion apparatuses used in their environmental systems, they also designed and developed the machinery used to install them. Meet Hazel, a versatile and agile drill rig with a proprietary hydraulic system that makes drilling safer, faster, and easier in any environmental condition.
So this is our famous Hazel. As you know, we named that machine after Hazel Park, where we are right now. So because we're just thankful with the great relationship we have with the city. And so Hazel is our first model that we have developed. This machine has been developed in 2014. It took us a little bit less than a year to develop the first rig, and it is now in production for our customers. So Hazel is a very new type of drilling rig. It is designed and engineered very differently from the existing rigs in the industry. First of all, Hazel is very light for a drill rig. Hazel weighs only 3,300 pounds. Usually a drill rig is going to be at least 5,000 to 6,000 pounds, but we have even more power than a 10,000 pound rig in a 3,300 pound machine. Then if you look at the drilling tower, which is this blue part up here, the design is absolutely unique. You have a system that is very similar to a rib cage that is enabling, during the drilling process, to absorb all the vibration right away where you're drilling. We are drilling with, we call it rotary drilling, so we're using augers to drill. And thanks to that unique tower, which is absolutely unique in the industry. You will never find a rig in the industry that has a tower like that. That is extremely robust, but at the same time very flexible, which enables to absorb the vibration. Thanks to that feat, we can have a very, very light body. And that is also one of our pride, is we have changed the design of drilling rigs. This will have a very big influence in the future design of drilling rigs as well. And we have designed our own hydraulic system. You're not going to find many companies in that world that can design their own hydraulic system, plus their machine. Basically, here, all the knowledge is in-house.
And the man behind all that technological knowledge? 64-year-old Andrew Nimchik, whose story begins in the tiny little farming town of Kiech, Poland during the post-World War II occupation of the country by the communist Soviet Union. Nimchik's early life was marked by the stark contrast between the affection he received at home and the tyrannical grip of communism that sapped the country of the freedom and economic advancements that had emerged following World War II.
It was very tough to be, actually you are limited to your freedom. That's, when you want to developing something and you've been, had no chance. There was no active to helping, with other people to developing anything. So there was a problem with, for me with the school. Sometimes they tell you things, like from nature. So I don't understand it totally different way. So I had a hard time to adapt it to school, and in reality, I just ignoring more than learning, because when they tell you, okay, this is red, and I see, no, this is white. So that was my biggest problem at school. I see it a different way as the other people see.
And what Nimchik says he can see is truly remarkable. He says he can see atoms and molecules moving through space, the atmosphere, people and animals, even trees and plant life.
At school, they always tell me, the teacher, you are different than anybody. And that's, when I started drawing, this is what I really expressed myself. When I had something to draw and this, I was way ahead to everybody. So, for example, we had also, the modeling classes after school. So we did the plane. My teacher was working on a very light plane and a very long wing. And I was built it from the wood, is because I see, I understand the forces. So if I want to get something, so I started building it, and the teacher said, "Oh, this plane, it will never fly." And it was hurt me, because I said, "Well, you don't understand what I'm doing, and you already criticized me." I was in the second grade.
At age 15, Nimchik enrolled in mining school. With his unique ability to see environmental forces in nature, the school introduced him to formal training in geology, gravity, fossils, underground river streams, and other natural phenomena. The coursework also included metallurgy, engineering, applied sciences, chemistry, and minerals.
I started looking to escape. I said, "Well, I cannot do no more, here, because I can't develop. I just can't express myself to the nature, with something meaningful for humankind."
All the while, the thought of escaping the communist regime never left his mind. In plotting his escape, Nimchik thought the best route would be by train. He began studying train schedules and eventually set his sights on one train that traveled daily between Warsaw and Vienna. Finally, he made his break, eventually ending up only 50 yards from freedom in Austria before finally getting caught.
It's a totally different world in prison. I remember I was in prison. I was just, the high security prison is totally different, which we have in the U.S.
Nimchik spent the next year in a dozen different prisons in Czechoslovakia and Poland before finally getting paroled. In 1984, in a remarkable stroke of luck, Nimchik managed to get a passport that allowed him to travel to Rome for work, leaving his wife and newborn daughter in Poland. Arriving in Rome, he was a free man for the first time, and he would never return to Poland while the communists were running it.
And I find out because I want to make a phone call, first time phone call, and my wife told me, "Oh, when you gone, when you left, 3 days later, the KGB, or you can call KGB or SB, they coming to to our door and asking for you. So they already looking for me, because I escaped. So they couldn't get me in Italy no more. So
Nimchik contacted the American embassy in Rome, and before long he was approved to emigrate to America. His dream had become a reality.
Slowly but surely, starting from the very beginning, got his life story. And that the first part of his life before he came here in 1984, that 24-year period, because he was born in 1960 in southern Poland. He was in 11 different prisons trying to escape. 4 times he tried to escape, got caught twice. Just unbelievable conditions that he was in, and yet he continued to strive forward, continued to believe in himself, and continued to seek freedom so that he could work on projects that he had on his head to bring them to fruition for the benefit of humanity.
Nimchik eventually settled in Hamtramck, Michigan, a working-class suburb of Detroit with a large population of Polish immigrants. Quickly finding work with an automotive supplier, he was able to not only earn a living but also send money back to his wife in Poland. It would take another 2 years, but eventually he brought his young bride to America, settling in this house where they would grow their family and where they've lived ever since. For the next 15 years, Nimchik would work in the automotive supplier industry, where his innovative ideas and inventions played important roles in improving tooling and manufacturing processes. Excelterra's first product line, the JEPS system, originally began as Nimchik's idea to alleviate flooding in his home's basement when it rained. But Nimchik, admittedly, is not a businessman skilled in the complexities of marketing and selling a new product. He needed a partner.
I felt that I had reached what I needed to learn and experience in the financial sector. That was never an objective for my life to do my whole life in banking, but I felt it was a good learning experience. And then I thought I need to do something more tangible, eventually meaningful. And that was in my early 40s. And changing career in Switzerland is much more difficult because of the cost of living and because you have a little bit less opportunities. The US has is an amazing playground for people who want to develop things. And that's why I told my wife, look, Detroit is not doing so well, but I believe it will come back. And I think I can be part of this and join when things are hard, and we will find something. I thought I need to do something that can actually maybe have something to do with environment or something that in the future will have an impact. I had some connection here in Michigan, and I met a very interesting entrepreneur who was developing drone technology back in 2011, and he was based at Detroit City Airport, which was the perfect playground to develop that. So while I was working there, I became also close to the airport director, and I told him that I was looking for any potential venture here in the US that I could invest or at least participate. The airport director eventually connected me with Andrew Niemczyk, who is now my business partner.
he always listen, and it's very hard to find a person who can listen you and respond it back. So we are supported each other, and then you can't find a person like this.
Andrew had installed one of our technology called JEPS at Detroit City Airport. And the installation was done in an area where the airport knew it's impossible to mitigate standing water. And he was successful with something that has nothing to do with drainage, something totally unique, a totally different approach. but most importantly, very simple approach. And I got immediately intrigued by that. I don't have a background in environment. I don't have a background in stormwater management, but I saw the simplicity of this technology. I thought there's something interesting here. I immediately felt he's a true man. He's not a man that is bragging. He's not a man that is selling something. He just expresses what he sees, what he knows, and what he can do. It took me 2 months to find a regular sleep, to find an ability to sleep a whole night without waking up and asking myself 100,000 questions about, is this technology really possible? What Andrew has developed, is that really possible? Does that really actually, how does it work? Does it really work? And I'm glad that I was helped by very smart people around me, especially my wife, who is a PhD in molecular biotechnology, to try to find the hard question, to find a problem in this beautiful technology called JEPS. And for 2 months, I was basically harassing Andrew with questions. And I every time had a very precise answer. And I finally had to accept the fact that this man has a knowledge that is very advanced. And what matters the most are actually the results, which I saw many results in many places. So I thought, what matters is not so much how does it work. What matters is it actually works.
I would put him up there with some of the smartest people to have lived on this planet. He certainly has proved himself with his products that are now in use around the world. And the other thing about Andrew is he hasn't really sought out any kind of publicity in any great sense. Sure, they put out press releases when their products are making advances or got a new installation contract, if you will. But he hasn't hired a PR firm. He chooses actually to remain humble because he doesn't want to be caught up in the trappings of wealth.
You also have to trust your guts. And this is something that is very deep inside of me. I've always acted like this. Not everything can be explained intellectually. Sometimes you need to rely on your instinct. And my decision to go with Andrew was, at the end, instinct. We have the ability at Excelterra to address many environmental issues in a very simple way by basically rebalancing what we unbalance as, with our industrial activity. There's a lot of voices now saying, oh, we have to go back, we have to stop the growth, we have to, shut down everything, stop. Rather than say stop everything and put rules here, put rules there, that's going to only do one thing, increase the cost of living. We can provide solutions to start to offset the problems we create and start to help going into a direction of a more healthy relationship with Earth. Our plan is to deliver not only the technologies, but most importantly, helping understanding what is actually destroying the planet and what is not, because we do understand that. So we see ourselves, Andrew and I, as just a starting point of something that will be more massive, that in the future will help us live on this planet with 10 billion people. We don't know in 100 years, are we going to be 5 billion or are we going to be 30 billion? We don't know. We need to address some of the main issues. And the main issues are what? The main issues are food. The main issues are health. Those are the main issues. And if you have food and health, usually you have much less war. So it's all linked. We see a link in all that. And we use the energy from the earth to deliver results, to basically bring something to humanity, for the humanity to be able to think about the future and survive, and maybe really this time being able to travel in space, because we all know our planet will be gone one day. So how long will humanity survive? We don't know. But what we know, we have the tools to help humanity. That's what we see ourselves.